Commissioners for Tuesday, July 25th, 2023. We'd like to start this morning by inviting Mr. Eddie Smith from the Church of Heights to come forward. And after that, the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Commissioner Wilkinson. Please rise if you can.
Let us pray. Father, we just thank you for this day that we can gather together and just discuss the business of our county. Lord, I just ask right now that in the rest of this year that you would just shine your face upon our county. Shine it upon these commissioners and every leader in this room and those that couldn't make it today. Lord, I just thank you that the best is yet to come for this county and for this area. Lord, I pray that your favor would rest upon each and every one in this room today. Rest upon this great city, this great county. And Father, we thank you that we were able to be blessed to live in such a great nation. Lord Jesus, we thank you for all the blessings that we have and the ones that are coming. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, and thank you, Commissioner Wilkinson. And I agree with you. I believe the best is yet to come. The chair will entertain a motion for approval of the minutes as listed on the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the minutes listed in our agenda on item A.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further corrections or additions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. Motion carries unanimously. We're going to recess the Board of County Commissioners meeting at this time, and we're going to convene the Solid Waste Collection and Disposable District. Are any of the mayors with us today? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Please come forward. We're
Sit there, you're fine. He's not coming for a while.
Are any of the other members with us this morning? Okay, welcome, Mayor Myers. We're going to move straight into the agenda, which is to adopt adopt a resolution setting the solid waste assessments and user fees for the 23-24 budget year. I think they are in your packet on page 12. Chair will entertain a motion or open for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, do we need to have public input on that?
I probably do, thank you. Thank you for that. Is there anybody with us today that would like to speak for or against the current rate assessments? Okay, seeing none, I'll close public comment. Thank you for that, Commissioner Harvey. I always said I need supervision.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adopt the new rates as listed in our agenda on item 3A.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Do you need something read different or motion made different, or are we good? Okay.
Let me clarify the motion to adopt resolution number 2023-080. How's that? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Do we have any further discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just have a comment. I wanted to thank you and Jay Tilton, staff, sanitation staff, for even in today's economic climate, being able to reduce these fees. And this is not the only year. It's been done the last 3 years, I believe, which will help citizens and still be able to provide the service that they're accustomed to. So I just want to thank everybody that was involved with this.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, with that, we're going to
Thank you, Mayor.
we're going to reconvene the Board of County Commissioners meeting, adjourn the Solid Waste Collection Disposal District. And thank you, Madam Mayor, for coming all the way up here for a 5-minute meeting. And we're going to move into presentations, and we're going to start with item A, Lauren Kahn, CEO of Meridian Behavioral Healthcare.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me this morning. Dawn Savoy, our CEO, is unable to make it, so he sent me, Lauren Cohn, the COO for Meridian Behavioral Healthcare. I'm here this morning to present some of the highlights of our annual report, and you should have a copy in your packet, I'm told, but I do have extras if anyone is in need. So I just kind of want to highlight some of the things over the last year that we've presented here in the report for Putnam County. We are super excited the last year to say that we've opened our location here in the county, just right up the street on Krill. We have started providing outpatient services for kids and adults, as well as our medication-assisted treatment. So we're very happy to be able to say we've started serving individuals here in our location. So 2022 also marked our 50th anniversary, so we wanted to note that and highlight. We appreciate the partnership that we've had with you all and are happy to be able to continue to grow that partnership and have a more active presence here in the county. Just some things we want to note as far as services over the last year. We had 324 Putnam County residents receive just about 2,000 telehealth services over the last fiscal year. We've increased the telehealth services since transportation is often a barrier for individuals. We've provided tablets and resources when individuals didn't have any. We also have served, let me go back to that page. Okay. Sorry, here. We have also served 159 individuals in our acute care. That's adults and 62 kids. We have provided over 100 medication-assisted treatment services, and we just expect that number to continue to grow with the opening of our medication-assisted treatment location here in the county. You can see in the annual report, we've provided a breakdown of all of the additional services, outpatient, residential, psychiatric, counseling, to both kids and adults. We've also included some of our client feedback. As it relates to the individuals surveyed, over 75% of adults and kids reported that felt better after treatment, that their functioning level improved, and 95% reported that they would return to us if they were experiencing the same type of need. So we're really proud to be able to say that not only are individuals benefiting from the treatment they're receiving, but they feel that benefit. They feel better, and they would recommend us to anyone who had similar needs. So as you know, the Baker Act requires us to obtain local match dollars because they only pay 75% for those Baker Act funds. So this year, we are requesting a 6% increase in our funding for the county to help us meet that expected local match requirement for fiscal year 2024. So we've included that funding request in our packet. So again, that's just the overview and the kind of summary of some of the highlights of the last year. I'm happy to answer any questions or provide any additional information should you need or request that.
Thank you, Commissioner Wilkinson. Would you like to start? Her button's
Yes.
not working.
Yeah, my
She
button's
actually was over there doing this right here.
So I have a few questions. Thank you for your presentation today. I know there was some changes in the Baker Act laws regarding what's considered most appropriate versus closest. So how has that law affected you guys, and what makes Meridian the most appropriate, I guess?
Well, we are the closest receiving facility, so we continue to receive Baker Acts from a number of surrounding counties. Most appropriate, unless the individual has a presenting physical medical need, then of course that would be a hospital or an obvious medical treatment that's needed. In lieu of that, we are the most appropriate. We provide the best care. The swiftest mental health care that we can. So again, closest receiving facility and most appropriate continues to be us in lieu of any obvious medical treatment.
Okay, thank you for that. I see on your map, it says receiving facility. In my understanding, we don't have a receiving facility in Putnam, but you're saying that you are the receiving facility for Putnam.
That is correct.
And that receiving facility is in Gainesville?
It is, yes.
And you've also opened a kids facility in Gainesville, is
We
that
have,
correct?
yes, so we
That's good
serve
news.
both kids and adults, where previously we did have to transport the kids to Lake City. We're also very happy to be able to say we've started a kids unit in Gainesville. Makes it a little bit easier for families to participate in that because they're such a vital component to the treatment of that child.
Oh, absolutely. And so how are you working with the school district? Did I read somewhere where there's phone lines in the schools that the students can call directly?
We provide services and liaise with the schools in a number of different ways, offering telehealth therapy. We do have quick access. We have individuals who partner and maintain a presence where we can. So we're just trying to expand that too through the use of telehealth. So we've got a dedicated program there. And we're hoping to continue over the next year to expand. We've got some upcoming initiatives on the horizon where we are able to provide some text resources to the kids themselves in the school. So you'll be hearing a lot more about that in the beginning of the upcoming school year.
And you mentioned that you have the medical assisted treatment here in Putnam along with the outpatient service?
Yes.
And you've been open just a few months, is that correct?
For medication-assisted treatment, we obtained our license in January and started staffing and ramping up to provide those services. So it has just been about 6 months that we've been licensed, but a few months since we've started seeing clients regularly in that program.
Well, I'm glad to see that you guys are here in Putnam, and I would like to see more information spread throughout the community so that our community knows about those resources.
Okay,
So,
great.
yeah, any way you can let
Yeah.
people know would be great, because I feel like there's a big need here, and you guys are here, and I'm excited that you're here. So
Thank
that's
you.
good, yeah.
We're really excited to be here. We've done a couple events with the chamber, so we're happy to have such vibrant community support for our services. But we have an outreach team, and I will definitely get with them to have them, kind of enhance the outreach and awareness that they're providing in this community by getting more resources out, brochures, more marketing materials, so folks know we're available and we're ready to serve.
Yeah, I'm excited. One other question on your, this page, I don't know what page it is in your packet, this page right here.
Yes.
You mentioned homeless recovery services. Are we doing anything in Putnam for that, or is that just, you're just discussing your overall services?
Yes, this is just kind of an overall presentation of the continuum of care we have. Right now, the homeless services we have are in Gainesville. We do have a homeless recovery outreach team that works in that community.
Okay. I think I have one more question.
Sure.
Actually, I think I'm done. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
Your turn.
Thank you. Your turn, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Commissioner Wilkinson, for those questions. I got a question. How many clients do you serve in Putnam County? I didn't think I saw that in there.
In Putnam County, there is some data in here with how many clients were served based on the level of care, services provided.
Do you have a
So-
total?
So that's kind of, well,
I know
I've
that.
totaled it. It says
Yes.
903. It says 579 for adults and 324
Yes.
for children. But I believe, which totals 903.
Okay.
And if you're doing an average, that's $2,215 per person.
Okay.
And then, the only question I have is whenever some of these would have duplications. In other words, somebody could be in getting medication-assisted treatment and counseling,
that is true, yes.
so you don't have unique numbers.
So, no. So if someone is receiving the medication-assisted treatment, now counseling is a component of that, so they would be counted just in that program. But we do have individuals receiving medication-assisted treatment and perhaps outpatient psychiatric care as well in another program. So, or they move through the continuum of residential, inpatient, residential, then outpatient care.
So my question was more going to broadband, if you will, and telehealth, and noticing that 324 clients took advantage of 1,900 appointments, basically. Okay, so if there's 903 people that you take care of in Putnam County, my question to you is, what do you hear about the barriers of them doing telehealth? I'm sure that's a savings for the organization. I'm sure it's a lot more convenient because you mentioned transportation is difficult here in the county. But do you hear of any of the barriers, and how, and if you do, how can we as a county help those barriers? Because I don't want to explain how they build the tire, but I think I'm going to. We have a local technology planning team, and all we do pretty much is advise carriers that come to us wanting to expand their internet and take advantage of dollars that are coming down from the federal government to the state. But if there's something we can do to help in that arena, we need to know. And so we can take a little bites of the apple and eventually eat the whole apple. But, so I guess my question to you is, what do you hear from your clientele? Do you hear, well, I do telehealth, but I can't get on the internet, or I have to go to the library, or I don't have a computer, or, you know?
I would say, the telehealth was definitely higher in the first part of the year. Once we opened the location, there were some individuals who previously had been participating in telehealth, but really do enjoy that in person, and were now able to participate in person. So some of the individuals that maybe had more of those connectivity or device barriers said, well, now you're much closer to me and I can get there. So they began to participate in person. And medication-assisted treatment is an in-person service, so there are some things that changed. We did hear that some individuals didn't have the devices. We do have a program where we're able to provide devices to individuals in need. So we were able to do that in some cases. Those devices come with a plan and connection, so they're not reliant on independent household Wi-Fi. But there are some connectivity issues. We do have individuals who report that they have the device now, they have the internet, but are still not able to get a good connection and a clear picture, which does sometimes present problems for the provider to truly provide that service and have that connection.
There's a system that we have that we're trying to put dots on a map on our county website so we can report back to the state and to the ISPs where we're lacking. That would be the consumer would have to do that.
Okay.
I don't expect your company to say, at this address, we have a client. That's not possible.
Sure.
But you could tell us that you serve 3 people in the northwest quadrant of Interlaken Lake Estates, for example, and we would know that that might be an underserved, because the money's flowing for underserved or unserved areas of our county.
Okay.
And if we can even just tell the ISPs, this is where we're having issues at, if you could, I know you've got to fly at a high level, I get that, but, if you can encourage your clientele, number one, to put the dot on the map, number two, if they don't feel comfortable with that, if you can provide us that you have some clients that are in this area that have need, don't have to pinpoint an address, we're not asking that.
Sure.
But, but we'd like to know so we can help out.
Yeah,
Okay?
absolutely. I'll take that back to our management team and the folks who are interfacing with the clients to encourage them when they experiencing that challenge or those connective issues to make sure they are taking that next step and to see what data we can provide back to you. We're always on board to help just improve that connection, to improve those telehealth services, because there are some individuals who still transportation is a barrier, and sometimes they have health issues that also make it difficult to leave the home. So we really want to assist in any way we can on that. So I'll take that
I
back to the
applaud you
team.
for your efforts so far, and thank you. And Mr. Chairman, that's the end of my comments. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments this morning? Thank you for coming, we appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for the update.
Okay,
Mr.
great.
Chairman, I think we need to do a recommended action on this one. Is that what we're going to do now? Okay. Mr. Chairman, I recommend that we approve the fiscal year '24 funding match requirement.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the requested funding match, which is an increase of $3,300 over last year. So just want everybody to know that it wasn't the whole 58.3, that it was only $3,300. So is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. The next item on the agenda, are you gonna take that, Julianne? This is our favorite one today.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ms. Corona and I are here to celebrate our summer internship program. Last year, we started this, and we had 3 interns last year, and this year we finished with 23. 13 of those came to us. Ms. Corona and Ms. Gillespie, who's here with us, that I'd like to commend, with Career Source, were able to give us a funded grant to pay for 13 of those interns. So this is a valuable program for not only our students, but also our staff. It gives them real working knowledge of their local government, and for many of them, it's their first opportunity to have a real-world job situation or environment where they have to show up and be dressed and have a boss and expectations. And so it's a great program for both. We're going to call up each student who is able to join us today, and if your student is here with family, please come up at the same time, and then we'll filter through the pictures as quickly as possible. You guys are going to be paparazzi because there are 23 of them, but we'll do this as we can. So we're going to start with Jaden Callwood, Natalia Givens, Lenity Hacker. I've seen her. And her parents. Come on, come join us, Mom and Dad. Just you and your parents, if you'll just stand back there, we'll give everybody. Cameron Helms. Mr. Helms. Daniela Hernandez. Stacy Hernandez. Alyssa Hissall. Maybe. Lillian Howe. Rashade Jones. Not here. Carly Jontry.
Yay.
Jada Martin. Rachel Morales. Shania Sharon. Alize Solis. Got to know from the claps as to whether or not they're here. Riley Stout. Isabella Torres. Jamie Torres. Amari Walker. Adriana Williams. Arzavion Williams. Peyton France. Samantha Harper. And Leslie Sims. The students you see here and the ones not called worked at a variety of our locations: the Palaca Library, Parks and Recreation, Building Department, Planning, Human Resources, the Interlochen Library, the Crescent City Library, Public Works, Emergency Management. Many of the students you heard are from our various high schools. We do have 3 that are graduates and moving on. Miss France is a graduate of Palaca High, QI Roberts, and she is currently at Stetson. Miss Harper is a graduate, and she is studying Homeland Security and starting Embry-Riddle in August. And Miss Leslie Sims is a Stetson graduate who is starting UF Law in August.
Yay.
So we're happy that our students are with us, and many of them that have not graduated and going off, or even those that are, we're hoping they will come back next summer. So what we will try to do is one picture of all the interns, and then we'll filter through each of the families if you guys will allow some pictures.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, would you mind if I make a comment before?
Not at all, Commissioner.
I want to congratulate all of you for being a part of our internship program. And I do want to say out of 23, thanks CareerSource for the 13 paid positions, and that's wonderful.
Yeah.
It gives these young people an opportunity to get a job and to see what the real world's like. Show up on time, go to lunch, do the work that's required. But I want to say, and I often say this from when I get a chance to speak, and believe me, I know I'm an old guy and you don't want to listen to me too long, and I'm not going to go on too long. But I know of one person that was hired here because of work that I saw. I saw someone who got to work early. I saw someone who went the extra mile, and I saw someone who stayed later in the day to get the job done. You know, if you have that kind of work ethic, the rest of it can be taught and trained. That's not an issue. But to get to work early, to stay and do what you're asked to do, and to stay and ask, is there anything else I can do before I leave? That is what employers look for in the real world. The rest of it's trainable. So I appreciate every one of you. I applaud you on your efforts and in the future of what you're going to do. And you always have a home here in Putnam County. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. So, Julianne, would you take charge of how you'd like to do the pictures, please, ma'am? I know you have no issues taking charge. Yes.
No, ma'am. I know how to scooch if I do.
Y'all come, you got enough room down here? We got some room here. Okay. Good.
All right. 3. All right.
How do you want to do individual one?
Everybody come up here and then we'll grab the families.
Julianne, would you like to bring them up here on
Or
the
do you want us
dais
to
with
come down
us in
here, or-
front of the sign? Would you like us down there? Why don't y'all come up here?
Good job. Or in the middle. Let me put her in the middle. I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking. Yeah, I wasn't thinking.
Get in front of Commissioner.
In front of the sign.
Okay.
There.
Thank you for letting us have her. She's going to do great. You already knew that, though.
She loves being in front of people. Cool.
Morning, sir. Middle? That's good. Brian, you're gonna have to practice some on that, taking them pictures today.
We need some direction.
Come on, Leslie, I'll get put my arm around you. It's after his granddaddy.
Okay, yeah. I'm just warm all in the blue sign.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Y'all in? We know this one. This one's been around since
I'm a
April.
backup mom today. That means your aunt today.
I'm gonna be an aunt.
That's right.
Sorry.
What are you doing all the money? Hi.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Good morning.
For sharing it.
Good, good.
Yeah, I have 2 little ones this time.
That's okay. We love kids. Oh, yeah. I was gonna say.
Can we get one with her up here and then move up front and get one with the children? Better picture up here.
Use it for your resumes.
Yeah. And we walk around and get one with the kids.
Yes, sir.
Julianne, would, you see that each one of our interns gets a county pin? We have some up here on the dais, and I think Commissioner Harvey also has some, so I'd like all to have one, even the ones that couldn't make it today. Okay, truly one of the best parts of our day, no doubt about it. We're gonna move on to item C on the agenda, which is the audit presentation by Cars, Riggs, and Ingram.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good to see you all again. My name is Amy Miller, and I'm an audit partner with Car Riggs and Ingram. I'm also joined this morning with a couple of my team members of the audit team. Emily Miller and Michelle Ham is with me this morning. Thank you for allowing us to come and present the results of your audit this year of the financial statements for the county for the year ended September 30th, 2022. Before I go over those results, I would also like to just remind you of the objectives of our audit, is to give an opinion as to whether the county's financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects in conformity with U.S. generally accepted accounting principles. We also report on internal controls over financial reporting and compliance that could have a material effect on the financial statements or on the major federal and state grants. In your audit book on page 148, that is a really great summary of the results of the audit. So I'd like to turn your attention there, page 148. On that page, you can see a summary of your fiscal year 22 audit results. Those include the types of opinions in our audit reports for the financial statements and the major federal programs and state grant projects. We have issued all unmodified or clean opinions. So that's good results. That's what you want to see. For the financial statement opinions, this includes the opinions on the governmental activities, the business type activities, each of the 6 major funds of the county. So that would include your general fund, your miscellaneous grants fund, your Better Place Plan Fund, Road Projects Fund, Waste Management Fund, and East Putnam Water Fund. Those are all the same major funds as the previous year as well. And then another opinion unit is also just the aggregate remaining funds of the county. Also, in this summary page, we reported that there were no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies to report. So also a good report.
Could
On
I
page
get you to
40.
Could I get you to say that part again for where we could hear it real well? Real loud, I'm just kidding.
I'm happy to repeat that. Also, on page 148, you can see here we reported that for the major federal and state grant programs, you received unmodified or, again, the clean opinions on those as well. The county expended a total of approximately $2.8 million in federal grants for the year and approximately $2.9 million of state grants during the year. We tested 2 major federal programs this year and 2 major state projects this year that met the criteria for major programs. Those also resulted in no matters of noncompliance to report. The county again qualified as a low-risk auditee under the criteria of federal uniform guidance. Also, the requirements for reporting at the end of the year under federal uniform guidance was submitted timely again this year. Our annual report required by the rules of the State Auditor General start on page 138 of your audit book. And that starts with the management letter that is required. Among other areas, we are required to report in this management letter. The state requires us to apply financial condition assessment procedures during the audit as of the end of your fiscal year. We have to look to see if the county meets the definition of financial emergency or deteriorating financial condition as defined in the Florida statutes. Our procedures showed that the county does not fall into the condition of financial emergency, and you also do not meet the statutory definition of deteriorating financial condition. So again, both good results. Additionally, based on your 22 expenditures, the general fund's available fund balance, so that would be unassigned and assigned fund balance at the end of the year, are sufficient to cover approximately 4.5 months of general operating expenditures in the next fiscal year. So your available balances are still better than the GFOA's recommendation, which is just 2 months. We are also required by the state to comment on whether any prior findings have been corrected, and there was no prior findings to comment on. The report on page 141 is also another report that we submit. It includes tests of your compliance with the Florida statutes, section 218.415 regarding investments. We saw no issues with investment compliance and have reported here that in our opinion, the county complied in all material respects with those statutes as well. And lastly, our report on page 142 is also required by the state, which attests to the county's compliance with certain sections of Florida statute 365 regarding authorized expenditures and uses of E911 funds. Based on our tests, we have reported that the county complied in all material respects with these statutes as well. So that concludes the results of the audit reports. And as always, I do want to say thank you to management, Mr. Suggs, Mr. Reynolds, Ms. Ryan Marabito as well, and their team and staff for all the work that they do and pour into this audit. It's a very long process, and we ask for a lot of information and ask a lot of questions, and so they have risen to the requests and provide us everything that we need in order to complete the audit again this year and submit timely. And this concludes the results of our audit in summary, and I would be happy to take any questions that you might have and address those at this time.
Any commissioners have any questions of Amy at this time? I think we're good, Amy.
Okay.
Thank you for coming today. We appreciate the presentation, and I'm probably going to do it again under commissioner comments, but I don't want to miss this opportunity to congratulate staff on a sparkling clean audit findings along with the clerk of the court's office.
Yep,
I agree. I agree. It wasn't that many years ago, it wasn't necessarily the case, so I'm real proud that that's where it is today. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, if we could, I appreciate that, and absolutely, Ms. Young's office as finance officer, budget officer for the county, has done a phenomenal job. But we would be remiss here this morning, our side of the table would, Ms. Julianne and I would, if we didn't recognize Ms. Ryan with Matt's office, the Honorable Matt Reynolds' office this morning, for the dedication and long hours that she put in this year on the audit. And I know it was tough on her. She had to make a lot of phone calls and ask us to jump through a few hoops to help her get things done. But Ryan, thank you so much for what you've done this year. I know it was yeoman's work, but you've done a great job, and we thank you personally for what you've done this year.
Yes, Honorable
Mr. Chairman,
Matt Reynolds.
if I could, I'd like to
Yes, sir.
echo those same comments. Mrs. Mirabito truly went above and beyond this year. She took on a lot of responsibility early on in the fiscal year, and she put in a lot of work on this audit, and I'm very, very proud of her. So, thank you, Ryan.
Thank
you,
you.
Chairman.
Did you have anything else?
I do not. Thank you so much for having us this morning.
Need to accept these audit findings through motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the annual audit as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. Thank you
Thank you very much.
We're going to move down the agenda. Item D is the countywide project update by Deputy County Administrator, Ms. Julianne Young.
Thank you, Chairman. As a reminder, today's report is not intended to be an all-inclusive report of every initiative or project underway by county departments. It's intended to be a snapshot of those most important to staff, administration, or the commission. We start today talking about our administrative project, Port Putnam. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers economic feasibility study to determine that a functioning port in Putnam meets the National Economic Development Objective is ongoing, with a completion date target of July of 2024. A successful determination will pave the way to undergoing of the dredging and navigable channel between the port and the federal waterway in the St. Johns River, as well as a turnaround basin for commercial vessels. Staff engineer is developing a scope of service to establish the bulkhead and dockage area structure viability. This step is necessary to assist the U.S. Department of Transportation's Maritime Administration to determine if Putnam County's Port Infrastructure Development Plan can be granted a National Environmental Policy Act exclusion or not. This determination will dictate when the federal grant funds will be made available to Putnam County. The environmental branch of U.S. DOT Maritime Administration recently inspected port facilities which met their satisfaction. The result of this visit could help with granting of the NEPA exclusion. Port staff is currently conducting a port rate study to determine whether Putnam County's rates need to be revised. Once the study is complete, the study findings will be shared with the Putnam County Port Authority. Animal Control Facility, the design build contract with CNR Technical was approved by the BOCC at the July 11, 2023 meeting. The Palatka Library flooring project is complete. The Melrose Library flooring project is complete. Jerry Beedenball Park, the playground equipment and shade structure are on order. Installation is scheduled to be completed by the end of September. Melrose Youth Sports Complex, the conduit and wiring have been installed. The poles are currently under installation. Lights will go in once they are set on the first two fields. We are expecting a completion of the end of September. John Theobald Sports Complex, all currently lit fields have been converted to LED sports lighting. Conduit has been run and awaiting installation of poles and lights on the two existing fields. The RFP for field work and field renovations has closed, and once rank order will go to the board at the August 8th meeting. South Putnam Sports Complex, the LED lighting project is complete. We are awaiting aiming the final lights to the field. East Palatka Community Park, basketball courts resurfacing is complete. The shade structure and the play gym installation is estimated to be complete by the end of September to comply with FERDAP grants. At Nyack Community Park, the swing set equipment has been ordered and installation is expected to be completed by the end of August. The Johnson Community Park, the sage structure is on order and is expected installation by the end of August. Fort Gates Ferry Landing, rehabilitation of the east side of the landing is complete. Coordination is underway to complete a minor repair needed on the west side of the landing prior to opening for traffic. St. John's Avenue resurfacing Palm to the CSX crossing. Construction bid documents have been sent to procurement and advertisement is expected by the end of this week. County Road 310 bridge rehabilitation. The installation of the pilings is substantially complete. The anticipated completion date for the project is October 5th, 2023. Septic to sewer conversion phase 3, the project is complete. Dirt to pave 21, the project is complete. Dirt to pave 22, design services for 22 roads are underway. Advertisement for construction services is anticipated to be in October. Dirt to pave 23, procurement for design services of 23 roads is underway. Advertisement for construction services is anticipated to be in June of 24. East Putnam drainage flooding mitigation phases 1 through 3. Phases 1 through 3, which included clearing of obstructions within the drainage system near East Cracker Swamp Road, Mill Creek, and along Yellington, are complete. East Putnam drainage and flooding mitigation phase 4. Phase 4 design and bid documents are substantially complete. Advertisement for construction is expected to be within the next month. St. John's Avenue drainage improvements, State Road 19 to County Road 309. The installation of the box culverts west of K. Larkin is substantially complete. The lateral stormwater culverts and drainage inlet structures are anticipated to be installed the beginning of the week. Coordination with DEO is underway to obtain additional funding to expand the project eastward along St. John's Avenue and extend the deadline to December of 2024. St. John's Avenue multi-use trail. The St. John's Avenue drainage project expansion scope and funding has caused the construction of this project to be postponed. Coordination with FDOT is underway to determine the best course of action. South Palm Sidewalk, Druid Street to Silver Lake Drive. Extended lead times of the electrical cabinet upgrades have delayed the project. The construction services are anticipated to begin in December with a completion date of March. Saratoga Harbor Drainage. This is completed by in-house staff. James A. Long Elementary and Jenkins Middle School safe routes to school. The pre-bid meeting for construction activities was completed last week, and the bids are due August 11th. County Road 315 resurfacing project. 90% design plans are anticipated to be submitted this week. Advertisement for construction services are anticipated in October. Port Buena Vista wastewater treatment plant conversion and sewer main extension. The contract for the construction services have been awarded and the pre-construction meeting is scheduled for tomorrow. The anticipated date of completion is April of 2024. Paradise Point sewer system rehardening and generator installation. Public Works is awaiting the amendment to the extension for time and the increase on funding for this project. Countywide guardrail installation, repairs, and replacement. Final punch list items are being addressed and completion is next month. Countywide road resurfacing 22. Final punch list items are being addressed and completion is set for next month. East Palaca septic to sewer project phase 4. Proposals for design services are due August 2nd. Evaluations are scheduled for August 18th. A rank order is anticipated to be presented to the BOCC in September. Countywide bridge repairs for 22. Final punch list items are being addressed and completion is set for next month. East Palaca water plant retrofit project. The VFDs are anticipated to be on site this week. Substantial completion is anticipated to be next month. Barden Ranchette Road resurfacing. The project is complete. San Mateo Water Extension Project. Bids have been obtained for construction services to install water lines in the Horse Landing area. Value engineering procedures are underway to bring this project within budget. North Putnam Drainage Project. Public Works has met with Ayers and Associates to discuss the project and the county's continuing services agreement. Experts, we expect to have a proposal for design services this week. South Putnam Drainage Project. 60% of the design plans are anticipated to be submitted this week. The advertisement for construction services is anticipated to be in November. East Palaca Water Main Expansion, which is an ARPA-funded project. Proposal to complete the design service of expanding the county's water main along State Road 207 to Port Buena Vista Water Plant is on today's agenda. Advertisement for constructions is anticipated in October. Putnam County Water Infrastructure Project, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers funded. Public Works is seeking post-design engineering services needed to advertise the previously completed design of the water main installation along East River Road. Advertisement for construction service is anticipated to be in September. Ash Street Drainage, the pipe inspection video was sent to procure rehabilitative services for the 78-foot drain culvert under Ash Street. A proposal is anticipated to be obtained this week. The road reconstruction activities will be procured upon completion of the drainage system rehabilitation. Rio Vista and Overlook Point Sewer Project. A task order to complete the survey and design services has been awarded. The project is anticipated to be advertised for construction in February of 2024. Countywide striping fiscal year '23. Coordination with the awarded contract is underway to complete these services in October. HMGP Hoover Road Culvert. The BOCC executed funding agreement was sent to FDM for execution. A proposal for design services is anticipated to be awarded in September. HMGP Putnam County Boulevard Lift Station Generator. The BOCC executed funding agreement was sent to FDM for execution. A proposal for design services is anticipated to be in September. HMGP Paradise Point Retention Pond. The BOCC executed the funding agreement and sent to FDM for execution. A proposal for design services is expected to be in September. County Road Resurfacing fiscal year '23. Design services are underway. A list of proposed locations to spread the millings will be presented to the BOCC during the next meeting. Advertising for construction services is anticipated to be in September. Central Landfill, the construction of the new sanitation offices has been awarded. The project is scheduled to begin soon. One note on the County Road 315 resurfacing project, we do have 90% design plans, and if we get concurrence from FDOT, we will be able to expedite the advertisement for construction services from October to potentially August, just to clarify. That concludes my report.
Great. Mr. Harvey.
I have a question. Ms. Young, did you mention Ashley Lake? Is that what I heard you say?
Ash Street.
Ash Street, sorry,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
Don't be muddying up the
I'm
water.
not just, I got concerned when I heard that. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions at this time? Thank you, Julianne. I know that's a lot to keep up with, and what she said at the beginning of that is, needs to be brought out even harder. That's just a small portion of what we got going on in the county. Just the ones that have had the most movement lately or the most interest. I would like to bring it out if everybody missed it, because that was so much information in such a short period of time, that St. John's Avenue resurfacing is funded and it's coming. So that's from Mosley, that's from the railroad tracks out in the Palm, correct?
First phase is from Palm Avenue to Mosley.
Mosley.
And then the reconstruction of St. John's Avenue is from Mosley Avenue to the railroad tracks.
Right, but it's coming too pretty quick.
Yes, sir, they're running concurrently.
Yes, great. Okay, so I think Sarah left.
I was always thinking the same thing.
I was going to ask Sarah. Sarah, if you're watching this at home,
Or in the car.
would you please write that in the newspaper somewhere where maybe people will understand that we are working on it as fast as the government will allow you to work on this stuff, and hopefully before long we'll have St. John's Avenue resurfaced from the railroad tracks to Palm Avenue. Okay, great. If we don't have anything else, we've got item number 5 is the public hearing for planning and development. Where you are, Zach? You slipped over there by the microphone. I didn't see you. And we'll move into the case number SM 22-003 when you're ready, Zach.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you. Just to be a little more efficient, this PowerPoint is going to summarize case small-scale map amendment 2203, as well as the rezone that's running concurrent, case R22008. So these applications, one of them is to amend the future land use map from commercial to urban service. The companion application is a rezoning application to change the zoning map from agriculture and commercial retail C2 to residential 1 R1. The applicants are Ernest and Linda Porter. I'm not sure if they're present today. I believe they also have an agent, Mr. Steinbetz. I could be pronouncing that wrong.
You're right, and just so you know, Mr. Steinmetz is a local attorney with the Douglas firm. He got held up in court. He did contact staff to let us know that he was running late. He probably wouldn't make it for another 20 minutes, but I'm trying to reach out to him in case there's any additional input he wants to provide.
Can you hold him in contempt?
Yeah.
No. Would your advice advice at this point be to hold off until maybe he arrives and we'll move on with another part of the agenda until then? I don't mind.
That's at the chair's discretion. We can start with the presentation, and then I'll check and see if there's anything he wants to add for input.
Okay, if you'll continue, Zach, we'll do that, and then, if we need to, we'll slow it down or take a recess or move on.
Not a problem, yes, sir. So moving forward, the location for the subject property is 120 Central Avenue. The subject parcel is approximately 5.81 acres. Again, the current future land use designation is commercial. The current zoning designations are agriculture and commercial retail, which is C2. This proposal, the two that we're looking at today, is to amend the land use classification and the zoning map to allow the continuance of a historical single-family residential unit to be rehabilitated. Some more background on the property. So the 5.81 acre parcel is developed with two family dwelling units that lie within the commercial future land use designation. Both dwelling units were reportedly constructed more than 150 years ago, and the parcel owners wish to rehabilitate the home and as their primary residence. The commercial future land use designation only allows for a residence when it is for use by the owner or the employees of the commercial use on site. There's no commercial use on this property. The parcel has existed as a nonconformity for several years, which is the impetus for the future land use map amendment and the rezoning. Here you have an aerial. It's at the intersection of US Highway 17 and State Road 100. Here you can see the zoning, which is majority commercial retail C2, where the road frontage is, with some agriculture on the eastern portion of the property. Again, the future land use is entirely commercial, which the commercial and the ag zoning are incompatible altogether as well. So this will help us clear up that incompatibility between the zoning and the land use. So the current commercial future land use map designations do not allow for residential uses. The proposed future land use map amendment and rezoning are compatible with the surrounding uses and would not be incompatible with future land use designations and zoning designations within the surrounding area. Findings and recommendation from staff is to approve both the future land use map amendment from commercial to urban service and to approve the rezoning request from commercial retail C2 and agriculture to residential 1. The recommendation from the Planning Commission at the June 14th, 2023 public hearing was a unanimous approval of both the future land use map amendment request from commercial to urban service and the rezone request from commercial retail C2 and agriculture to residential 1. I'll do my best to answer any questions.
You have any questions at this time? Commissioner Adams, Zach?
What is the reasoning why we wouldn't want to make it all ag? Because that would still allow them to have the homes, right? Isn't that the point of this?
Correct, yes, sir. So the
Part of
ag
it's ag.
zoning district does allow for single-family residence. The issue is that with the future land use designation, we would have to support an agriculture future land use. Otherwise, ag zoning cannot be newly requested in the urban service future land use area. So if it's already ag zoning, it's a holding zone. We allow it to maintain. You can use the ag zoning district for the purposes that it allows, but we would not allow or support a change to ag and that future land use designation. The urban service layer is really to support mixed uses, industrial, commercial, residential, all kind of together.
So it's really just administrative. It makes more sense from our perspective. It doesn't
More or
help.
less, yes, sir. It's a policy within the.
Okay, I was just curious because that stood out to me a little bit because it was already partially ag, so.
Yes, sir.
It also fronts the highway on two sides, so I mean, do you really want to have an ag piece of property that fronts a commercial, that has commercial on the north side of it all the way up past the old Cowarts and post office, and commercial across the street with the handyway and whatever, and commercial directly next door, and when most of it fronts the highway? So, I mean, either way, it could go that way for sure, but
Well, I mean, long-term, we'd rather it not be R1 either, so.
And the application actually has a pretty good description of the property on my PDF version, page 91, that shows that the applicants, the boarders, have a good kind of working knowledge of the historical significance of the property, their plans to renovate the house, so they're doing exactly what our comprehensive plan and zoning regulations would ask them to do.
You know, and I guess my question really wasn't about this application, it was about, in general, what the process would be for, if it already a portion of the property is ag, administratively, why we would want to change it. Is it really, but, and that makes sense, and I appreciate your answer.
all right.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. I may have missed this. It said 2 dwelling units, but it sounded like they were going to renovate or restore one. Are they going to do both? Or there are 2 dwelling units on there?
Correct. Well, that's what I've taken from the report. So I don't know all the details. I don't want to stand up here and try to assume as well on the details of those dwelling units. But from what I understand, the main structure is what they are seeking to rehabilitate to use as their primary residence. We can always work with the property owners moving forward to look at the possibility of an accessory dwelling unit like a guest house, or potentially splitting the property and separating the smaller house from the main house to greater increase the conformity. As it stands right now, right, with the 2 dwelling units on one parcel, that is inconsistent with one of the regulations in the Land Development Code. However, it is less inconsistent than having 2 dwelling units in commercial zoning and commercial future land use designations.
Okay, so they would have some options rather than just do away with the other dwelling. There's options to do something with it and keep both of them on the property.
Yes, sir, that's for sure. I mean, we're not going to make them tear one down, but we would work with them, whatever their desire is with that property.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Zach, did you read the title to the ordinance?
No, sir, I did not. Give
And
me
then,
1 second
Mr.
to
Chair,
find this.
we'll also
document.
need
We can do it along with the motion. Just whenever we make the motion, we'll read the title of the ordinance
Yes, sir, there are 2.
on page 31 of your packet. Okay, is there anybody present today that would like to speak in favor or against this proposal? Seeing none, I'll close public comment on the public hearing, and the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of ordinance number 2023-009, an ordinance amending the future land use element of the comprehensive plan by amending the future land use map to change the designation of approximately 5.81 acres of land from commercial CR to urban service US, repealing all inconsistent ordinances or parts thereof, and setting forth an effective date, case number SM 22-003.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, just to pass along that agent, let me know that that second dwelling on the property is a 500-foot shed that's not livable. It's designated as an accessory use, and it only has a bathroom.
Well, it sounds to me, unless I miss my guess, it's fixing to pass, so your lawyer can not worry about it.
That's not how lawyers are wired, but I appreciate that.
I understand that. So, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. Now on to item B. We'll have to make a motion separate for the rezoning R22-008 on page 69.
You got it.
The actual ordinance is on page 70, I believe.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of ordinance number 2023-010, amending ordinance number 0518, an ordinance of the County of Putnam, State of Florida, amending the official zoning map for Putnam County incorporated into Article 2 of the Putnam County Land Development Code Ordinance 2005-18, rezoning a 5.1 plus or minus acre parcel of land from commercial retail C2, agricultural AG to residential R1, providing for severability and an effective date, case number R22-008, Porter.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Does your lawyer want to say anything about this one? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries
Somebody can turn
unanimously.
around.
Yelling now, you
Commissioners,
go
have
back
a
to
good one.
St. Augustine, you won't have to come over here. Got to have a little fun as you go.
That's right.
All right, so we're going to open the floor for public comment on agenda items. This portion of the agenda is designed to allow citizens an opportunity to bring matters to the attention of the board concerning the consent agenda. It is not reasonable to expect the board will engage in deliberation or debate. Please limit your time to 3 minutes. Public comment cards are conveniently placed at the meeting room entrance and should be submitted prior to the meeting to the deputy clerk. To my left, your right, up here in the front. And with that, do you have any cards this morning? Okay, is there anybody that would like to comment on agenda items? Okay, seeing none, I'll close public comment on agenda items and we'll move on to consent agenda. Commissioner Adams-Act, would you like to pull anything from the consent agenda this morning?
I have none today.
Commissioner Harvey?
I have none, sir.
Commissioner Pickens?
I have none.
Commissioner Wilkinson?
F and G for discussion purposes.
Okay, and I have none additional.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of consent agenda items A, B, C, D, E, H, J, K, and L.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. Commissioner Wilkinson, item F.
Item F, 1024 Foundation Building donation. I was excited to work on this project with the Sheriff's Office. I appreciate their partnership, and I appreciate Major Surency's thought process and project overview. Basically, what we're going to be doing is he's here, if we have any questions, we can certainly ask. But what's going to happen is as inmates are coming out of the jail, they're going to be able to have a facility where they can get resources that are in the community. And that building's going to be right there in front of the Sheriff's Office. It's the old Putt-Putt Golf building. And I'm excited for this because right now when people are coming out of the jail, they just leave. And it'd be nice for those inmates to come out of the jail and have some resources, understanding what's available in the community for them, and setting them up with Career Source or whatever resources are in the community. So it's a great partnership with the Sheriff's Department, and I just want to commend the Sheriff's Department and the partnership that we have with you guys on this project. And with that, I move it forward, please.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to move item F forward, or to approve item F on the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries. Commissioner Wilkinson, item G.
Let me get to my page here. This is specific for a design and engineer proposal for the fire station in West Putnam, but I wanted to just comment and say thank you to Representative Payne and Senator Hudson for their hard work in getting this $2 million appropriation approved at the state level. This is designated specifically for the West Putnam Fire Station, which is much needed in that area, and I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank them and thank staff for working with the state on this project. With that, I move approval of the design and engineering proposal for the
Second.
West Fire Station.
Okay, we have a motion to move item G for approval on the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. Okay, we're going to move down to new business, and we're going to use item A, which is the administration's quarterly budget reports.
Thank you, Chairman. As included in your packets this morning, you'll see a snapshot of your major funds. The general fund, as we've talked about before, all of our funds are cyclical, but they're not level in revenue generation or expenditure spend. So you will see a disparagement throughout the year of what you see collected. Just because you're at 25% of the year, it does not mean your revenue should be at 25. So you're going to see a disparagement. In the general fund, we've collected 77% of budgeted revenues, and we've spent 60% of budgeted expenditures. You'll see the projected reserve balance is $11.6 million after today's adjustments for the project that you'll accept at 505 that you've already approved at a prior board meeting. This is typical and expected, and we are running in the third quarter right where I believe we should be and fiscally sound to finish the year. Your transportation fund, they've collected 44% of their revenues, and they are at 47% of their expenditures. Again, we're at 75% of the year. Neither of these factors are concerning to me. Again, you're going to be fiscally sound by year end. The transportation fund reserves are projected to be just over a bit of $500,000. The fire fund has collected 68% of its revenues and spent 47% of its budgeted expenditures. Same statement for the third quarter moving into the fourth. We are right on target to finish the year well. We have about $1.7 million in reserves in the fire fund. Sanitation's collected 22% of their revenues. A factor that you're not seeing in there, which has skewed it, is that your reserves are already collected. So your 22% is really probably closer to about 80% if you factor those first four items. So the transportation fund, what we have to hold in those long-term closure costs in reserves is always going to throw an outlier into this report. Again, you're going to see 15% of your expenditures. Again, you're seeing the same factor. So that reserves line, it's still there. It's still holding steady. You haven't spent it. We don't expect to collect it. We don't expect to spend it. So that's what's going to throw those percentages off just a little bit. You'll see your current closure is 21.1. That's your restricted closure. And otherwise, you have about $13 million in that particular fund, $14 million in reserves. Your 405 fund, they've collected, again, you're seeing your reserves throw it off just a little bit. You're closer to about 75% in revenues and about 50% in expenditures. So entering the fourth quarter, I believe we're right on target for all of these funds.
Commissioner Adams-Ack.
On the sanitation fund, last year, we had some discussion about they were changing the rules kind of on what the reserve escrow future might have to look like and the amounts that we may have to carry. Has that been finalized?
It hasn't. We are working with our internal consultant to get a better understanding. We are also expecting our new numbers as to the adjustment, which we're expecting the long-term closure to go up because our new cell expansion, which adds to what you've got to accrue. And we're also working through the consultant to see if we can get some better guidance as to just what is going to be required for us to keep in expected reserves or restricted reserves.
Do we have an expected timeline for that, or
I can get back to you on that. I'll have to follow up with Mr. Tilton and find out where he and the consultant have gotten to date.
I think it's very difficult at this time because you're dealing with a state and a private consultant on our end. And so what's happening is Jay is trying to get our consultant to agree to a different methodology on how much of a percentage that they're charging us for closure fees. And we seem to think that it's higher than what they're charging other landfills for closure fees. And so they're trying to use the consultant to bring that in line, and if that's the case, then we could drop the reserve sum for the closure for reserves, but there's no way of knowing what a time frame could be on that. We could get answers week after next, or it may be the middle of next year. There's just no way of knowing at this point because you're dealing with people who don't have a statutorial schedule at all. They just can do it as they can find time. So
yeah, and I just brought it up because it's a big number, and I think the public needs to know. And it's something we discussed last year as well. So thank you, Julianne.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, does anybody else have any more comments on the quarterly budget reports? Thank you for that, Ms. Young. We're going to move on to another discussion that I've been wanting to have for a while, and so does Public Works. Right now, under the current plan, and JR, don't hesitate jumping in here and helping me out here. Under the current plan, we, when we put in sewer for somebody under the current plan, we furnish them a tap. We don't charge them impact fees. We furnish them a tap and let them hook up for free. But basically, they take it from there and they put in their own grinder pump. They put in their own services. If they need a grease trap, whatever the case may be to make it work from that tap in, it's owned by the business. That's what we do at the present time. And we've been doing this for a little while. The problem that we've run into is that in the past, the county has put in some of these grinder pumps, grease traps, what have you, for different businesses around the county, and those businesses basically expect the county to pay for repairing when they don't pump their grease trap, or when they send hot grease from a restaurant through the lift station and melt the impellers out of it or whatever, and they call the county, and so the county gets $100 a month, but it costs $20,000 to go in there and fix the system back in place. I think I'm not by myself. I think JR's on board and the utility division is on board here. We think that this ought to be changed. We need to go in there and say from this certain day forward, today would be good by me. Basically, from our tap to your business, you own it. We're going to give you the equipment. If we own it, we're going to give you the grease traps. If we own it, we're going to give you everything it is that we own on the other side of that tap. But then it's yours. If you melt your lift station with hot grease because you're not instructing your employees not to cool it down before they run it through the impeller, or if you don't pump out your grease trap and it all stops up, it's not up to the county to go in there and fix the lift station and fix the grease trap because you filled it up and didn't maintain your grease trap. So it's a two-way street, and it needs a discussion because it's a no-win situation for the county when we're being abused, and in a lot of cases we are. And if you look at the list of people, a lot of those people are already the county anyhow that are on that list, probably a lot of them. So we're going to open that floor for discussion. Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for bringing this to our attention. Years ago, when I first came here, this was a big concern of mine, not only, and I'll kind of open the door really wide open, not only on commercial but on private citizens, that we were putting in stuff on their property. I wholly support, as of today, moving forward, that from our tap to their establishment is their responsibility. I don't see how we can continue asking our taxpayers to continue footing the burden on something that they need to do, and it's good for them. I understand why we put a sewer system in, and I support that. It's helped our river immensely. It's helped our businesses, but we can't sustain taking care of these any longer. So I support that today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I think that sewer systems have always been a situation where it should be a public-private partnership to some degree. And so I think right now we have, from past actions, not today's actions, but from past actions, we've let ourselves get to the point to where it's a public partnership. It's us. It's not them. It's not us together. It's
There's no
us.
partnership left.
And so that needs to get back to the point where we provide services, which is what we should be doing, and they provide whatever it takes to use our services. So that's just my opinion. Commissioner Adams' act. Did you have something, sir?
I'll mirror pretty much what Commissioner Harvey said, except for I think we really need to start having the discussion about private homes as well that are connected. And I'd like to see that added to this, to be honest with you, because we're using grant money, and I understand, and I voted no on most of them, I'll say that, but since they're there, we utilize grant money to give the people the equipment. I think that's a big enough step personally, and then they can maintain it from that point forward. So I think we should include the residential as well with this. I won't vote no if we don't today, but I would really like to see that discussion happen as soon as possible as well.
I 100% agree. The problem that we run into is part of the grant documents makes us continue until a certain period of time to maintain the residential pumps that were put in with the grant money, because that's how the grant was issued. So, yes, I agree with you 100%, and I'd like for us to get there, but we can't today because the grant documents don't allow us. We'd have to go to paying back grant funds, and I don't want to do that. So we're going to have to continue with residential for a while, but all the new residential stuff we hook up today is the same as commercial. You hook on to our system out at the street, and then you put in your own grinder pump, correct, JR?
That is correct, but there are some areas that are still underneath that septic to sewer conversion through the water
Right,
management.
except the grant area.
Yes, sir. There is certain grant areas.
That
but
we
that is
have to
correct.
do it.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Okay. So, the chair will entertain a motion. Oh, I'm sorry. You're gonna have to let me know your light isn't working.
That's okay. Do we currently have a policy in place? I mean, how are we choosing which commercial properties, or are you saying that all the commercial properties that hooked up to our tap are receiving the same service?
Up until a certain period of time, and I don't know what that date was. I think it may have been before my time. We were hooking them up, and from the research I've done so far, I haven't been able to find out what qualified you to get hooked up or not. So that's the best way to put it that I can. And so since in the last several years for certain, we've done it to where you hook up to our system, you pay to hook it up, you own everything, you do everything. These are only the ones that were put in place previous to when we officially made the policy that you have to pay from the tap in if you want to hook up to our system.
Okay, so we do have a written policy in place of how we're handling it now.
I think we do. Is it written, JR?
That's what our discussion is today, so we can write that policy.
Okay.
So we wanted board direction on how you guys want to move forward with the existing commercials. So we would like, exactly what you're saying is be able to send out a letter that says from this day forward that we're not going to maintain your lift stations any longer.
That's on existing ones.
Yeah, but our existing, the current ones have, yes, there's a policy in place for the current ones, but we need to be able to backdate the policy to this existing list.
Well, I would like to see the policy before we vote on it. I would like to see the details of that a little bit. I like the idea and what we're talking
I
about.
don't have a problem with that whatsoever, as long as we all agree to let them move forward with a policy to start addressing this issue, because this is a tremendous burden on the taxpayers of Putnam County that's not fair to them when they're subsidizing a restaurant, and I'm not naming any names, but they're subsidizing a restaurant that 3 times a year they pour hot grease down their lift station and melt the impellers. That's not a fabricated story, that's a fact. And so when it's costing the county $20,000 a year to keep one restaurant online, that's not fair.
I don't disagree with you. Do we know how much cost savings this would be to us, roughly, or how much this is costing, whichever way you want to reword it?
Well,
That's kind of a hard one to put together because you don't know exactly what's going to tear up tomorrow, right?
Right.
I can tell you in the last month, we spent over $20,000 replacing lift station pumps.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm just trying to get an idea.
Yes,
I mean,
yes, ma'am.
obviously, any savings to the county, we should be trying to get,
Yes,
but
ma'am,
I
we had
just
replaced
wanted to.
2 of them within the last few weeks that were $8,000 apiece.
Okay, and then I have a question for Rich, I believe. Since these are considered county assets, how do we just give them back? We just do that through policy? Is there some Florida statute that says since it's an asset, we have to do certain things, requirements within the state, or
Good
since?
question.
I don't think so. It's no different than surplusing property.
That's what, well, but there's a process for surplusing property. So is this do we have to follow that process for these assets? Because they are assets. The county purchased them.
I agree, and yeah, I think we do have to go through the process. I would assume that would be part of the policy that's going to be drafted.
I mean, I'm certainly not trying to make it more complicated, but I want to make sure that if we go forward with this, that we do it correctly and that we don't get our hands slapped in a year for not doing something, required by Florida statute.
We agree.
Okay.
Mr. Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner Wilkinson, for bringing that up. That's a very good point. I think inside the letter, we can easily say that the board took action to surplus this equipment, and now it belongs to you, and that might very well satisfy the requirement. I would like to go ahead today. I know that the policy hasn't been written, but I think that our staff is capable of moving this forward and getting that information. But, this is a burden on taxpayers, other taxpayers that shouldn't have to be paying that. And I think as fast as we can get out of it, I believe we've all pretty much feel the same way, that there is responsibility on these businesses. And I just think we need to go ahead today, if we can possibly get there, and direct staff to write the proposal, get it done, and get it out to the people as quick as possible. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Would it be okay with you, Commissioner, if we ask staff to try to find the time as quickly as possible to write it, and maybe we could bring it back to the next meeting? Would that give you enough time between now and the next meeting to come up with this policy? If it will, I want to move it forward as bad as anybody wants to move it forward, but I also don't want the public to think we're trying to shove it down their throats
Exactly.
either.
Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I agree with you 100%, and I thought Commissioner Wilkinson was looking at my notes, but I didn't make any, because the first two questions was what I was going to ask: what was the original agreement or policy, and then what kind of costs were we incurring? So you explained that. I would like a copy of that policy, but I think needs to be definitely how we proceed. Is not we're shoving it down their throat. It's something that is a business decision that we need to do because of the expense. So yeah, I'm okay with moving it forward to bring it back for further discussion.
The way that I made this more palatable for me is it's kind of, I couldn't determine how they ever got hooked up in the first place. And it was almost like, if I know the right person and I can get the right button pressed, I didn't have to pay to put this in. I don't know that to be the case, and I'm not really saying, I'm just telling you, I couldn't, with the research that I did, I couldn't determine what made some people have to pay and other people not have to pay. I know it's happened in the past. So there's only 72 of these countywide, and the county actually owns 20 or 30 of them, which is, like public works and fleet maintenance and things like that. And so Putnam County actually owns a lot of these, so we're still going to be on the hook for what we own. It's just that it puts everybody in a level playing field out on the street, because there's a lot of people that aren't on our ticket on this that are paying their own way on businesses. A lot of people.
Well, we definitely should have consistent policy, and it should be fair to everybody.
It should be the same.
It should be the same for everybody.
Yes. So would that be okay with you, Commissioner?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Chairman, JR, you did say that there is a policy for new hookups already in place, correct?
That's correct. We're providing them the tap, and they're providing their own infrastructure from the lift station out to the tap, like Chairman Turner explained.
And they're responsible
That's the policy we're using now. However, in the past, I believe it was an administrative decision before this administration to allow those folks to hook into it for free, from the information that I can gather. So I just wanted, that was the purpose of today, was to have a discussion, to figure out how the appetite of the board was, so we can go back and write a policy to bring back to you. And if you guys want to bring it back for approval, we'll absolutely do it and have it ready for the next meeting.
As quick as Paul, yes, next meeting if
Yes,
we
sir.
could get it done.
Absolutely. And a copy, and I will include in there a copy of the letter we're gonna send to the.
So we're gonna waive in approval to let you move forward, and then we'll look at it at the next meeting for approval.
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
One
Commissioner.
last question. Mr. Grimes, did we ratify the administrative position that you just spoke of, or
Yes, we did.
we did?
Yes,
on
we
the,
actually discussed it at a
Okay.
board meeting
Okay,
and
good.
decided, that's when I asked y'all to waive the hookup fee or the impact fee or whatever you wanna call it on the system, cause we're trying to grow the system into sustainability, and the only way to do it is actually by getting more people to hook up to give you more income to come on, so, but that's what we've been doing. It was ratified by the board.
Thank you.
Okay, good deal. So, with that being said, we're gonna move on to the, proposed fee schedule. Oh, I'm sorry, we're gonna take a 5-minute recess. reconvene the meeting of the Board of County Commissioners and move down the agenda to the next item, which is the MSBU proposed fee schedule. And it was included in your packet, which is, I think most of them remain status quo with the exception of St. John's Harbor went down from 238.12 to 190. And the one that I want to talk about, which is the St. John's Riverside Estates. So far this year, it seems, I asked Ms. Young for a printout on where we were before the meeting started, and basically where we are is where we've spent 43 of the existing $1,000 of the existing monies. We spent 43,000, and we've got another 29,000, but we got another quarter to go also. And I think they're trying to fix some drainage problems out there in the area.
I'm
Ms.
going to
Young?
interject just so that we don't have any confusion. You've spent 19, you've encumbered 24, for a total right now of projected spend of 43.
43.
What is the, okay, so the 29 is extra. That's even better. So the encumbered amount, the encumbered amount is encumbered towards what? Grading and drainage and mowing?
Yes.
Okay.
So encumbrance would estimate out the projection, and we can, Tony, you're welcome. We can drill down into each of those encumbrance. There's 4 of them currently. Some of them still have budgeted encumbrance on them, i.e. we've projected what we're going to need in those particular areas and have encumbered the funds.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Turner, at this point, we have encumbered some monies for mowing, and also, too, so we're doing a 6-week grading schedule there, not once a month, to help save them some money in the long term so they can do the drainage projects. Unfortunately, that area is, even whenever it is dry, there's still portions of it that are wet, and it's very difficult to find a time to account for a drainage cleaning. So we're going to try to look into next fall and winter into doing a massive drainage project of ditch cleaning, culvert clean outs, et cetera, and move forward with helping them out.
I understand, but if you've looked at a topo of that area, the whole place is in a bowl. If you live on the back end of it, unless you're gonna pump water uphill, you're not gonna move that water out of there. That's been the problem since day one when I was a child. So I guess my point is I know, and I don't want to disparage the wonderful lady who takes care of that, but we got one lady that runs that MSBU.
Yes, sir, Terry Sorrell.
That's right. Does a great job, and I'm not disparaging her at all. I've tried to get other people involved, and I haven't been successful at doing that. So basically, that whole subdivision, the people that don't live in the back 2 blocks of it on the end where the drainage problems are, they're mad as hell that they got to spend $302 a year for a future drainage problem that's only affecting the 2 blocks on the back end that holds water during a bad rainstorm. I get it. But last year, I made a commitment to the folks that live in there that if we didn't spend the money for maintenance that they wanted during the year, that we would reduce that $300 down at an appropriate level to where we started moving forward. We gave them the first year. They went, I know it was before you got here, but it was, I think they started out at either $27 or $37 a year and went to $302 in 1 year. That upset some folks.
Yes, sir, and I have actually, I've dealt with some of that, and there was a lady here earlier that she lives on Tropic Avenue, and in that particular instance, and I think Commissioner Harvey is aware of what possibly could have went on back then. I believe in 2006, they signed a restrictive covenant saying that they would still pay an MSBU fee even if in front of their residence was paved, and they are still paying that MSBU fee even though they live in front of asphalt.
I understand, but there's no paved asphalt. We're doing apples and oranges here because St. John's Riverside Estates is not paved.
Yes, sir, I understand that. I guess the point that I'm trying to make is that because of maybe that extra, I know that that's part of one of the complaints from some of the residents in the area. I've actually had another gentleman come to Public Works to complain about that, about the continuation of their MSBU fee on Tropic, because they are, I mean, to my knowledge, once it becomes asphalt, the county maintains it. So they're not getting any benefit from the MSBU that they're still paying into it.
I don't know that that's an accurate statement. If they're in an MSBU, even if it's a paving MSBU, they still maintain their own MSBU.
Drainage. They have drainage.
Yeah, and they have drainage, so it's just not an
Okay.
accurate statement. What you just said is not accurate. So my point being is I made a commitment to these people last year when they were burning me alive burning me at the stake because we went up from $37 to $302 a year. And unless the commissioners here won't allow me, we are gonna go down some this year. It may be in increments, it may be whatever, and just because we say, well, there's a lady in there does a wonderful job. I don't want this about Miss Sorrell because I appreciate her doing this. But we're not gonna start using this MSBU as a savings account in case we wanna do future drainage projects sometime in the future. This should not be a savings account. And from what you just said to me, it's a savings account. That we're trying to gather up enough money in reserves that we can do a massive drainage project in the future down there. I say that if we're not gonna do it now, then we need to either poll the neighborhood and ask them, do they want a massive drainage project? And if they don't, then we don't need to keep charging them $300 a year for an MSBU that they're getting $198 a year services out of, which is approximately what it would bring it up to the $43,000 that they've actually got encumbered and spent for this year, or
But you're only
projected to be
three-quarters
spent.
You're only three-quarters of the
But
way.
that's projected for the rest of the year, the 24,300. It's encumbered.
That's to account for the grading that will be through the rest of the fiscal year,
The
and
next
also
time
to
that I have to come to debate our guy in here, would you let me do it off the camera to start with first? If there's gonna be an issue, I would appreciate it.
Tony, go ahead. We got this, Tony, if you want to go ahead and have a seat. The questions can be directed to staff.
You know, it was basically very simple to me. I don't think we're spending all the money. We went up to $302 a year. I don't think we've reached out to the entire neighborhood and asked them, and I think most of the people in the neighborhood are not willing to continue paying $302 a year. And I made the commitment last year that if they wouldn't come to my house and shoot me, that this year that I'd try to reduce that sum if I could. We haven't spent $29,000 of it.
Mr. Chairman, no one's wanting to debate the chairman this morning. That's not what this is about. But I believe there's been no conversation between Public Works staff and the citizens out there requesting any reduction. So any conversation that today will certainly be directed from the dais, and we're certainly willing to sit here and do whatever it is that the 5 elected officials would like for us to do. But we can't provide any additional information because we've had none from the citizens out there.
Well, I didn't, I believe there has been some conversation between them and the MSBU directors and some of the citizens that were upset that they were still paying $300 a year. Are you saying that you have had no conversations that anybody was upset about paying the amount they're paying? If you don't mind, Mr. Soto, I'll try to behave myself, please.
That's fine, Mr. Chairman.
I apologize if you.
Commissioner, the only people that I've had a conversation with as far as that had a disagreement with the price itself were the residents on Tropic Avenue that were paying the MSBU fee, and they had asphalt in front of their house. That's really the only people
That was a different MSBU.
Sir?
That was a different MSBU than this one, wasn't it?
Not to my knowledge. I thought that at one point in time it was all
Any of the
St. John's
roads?
River Ridge.
Tropic Avenue is part of St. John's Riverside Estates.
Okay.
Yep, and that was I think it was a dirt to pave project in there, many years back, and I think that's where the thing came. I think it's different in the West End ones whenever you dropped your MSB when your dirt road was paved. However, what Mr. Poprosky was explaining is that they signed a covenant inside that subdivision that said they would continue to pay the MSBU even though their road was paved. And I think that's what he was trying to explain a few minutes ago. So those people
Well,
don't have an
I
out.
understood that, but I didn't realize there was any paved roads in this particular one at all. So what you're saying is there is a paved road on the far end of it, the south end of it on Tropic?
Yeah, well,
South
Tropic
end?
is paved off 17.
yes, sir. That'd be
And
correct.
it meanders through the neighborhood and comes out there. I can't recall the name of the road where it turns out and it goes right into Horse Landing, and that road's paved coming through there, and it's the other, wish I could speak of the name of the road right now, and I just don't have it on top of my mind.
Well, we have
There's
to,
two paved roads in that MSBU currently.
we have to tentatively set the rates today.
That's correct, yes, sir.
I would like to reach out to somebody other than the one lady, and I'm not saying, I'm not disparaging her. I appreciate the one lady taking this on. She can't get anybody to help her. But I would appreciate some communication with the residents in the neighborhood to see if they want to continue paying at the level they are for a future drainage project, or do they just want to fund it at the level that they can go in there and do their grading, mowing, and road repairs, which is what it started out as an MSBU for.
Right, and the other factor that needs to be put in there is they need to have some kind of money for a reserve balance for
I don't
odd and
disagree.
end type requests that come in throughout the year, whether it be through natural disaster or something that they want extra service. We got to have some kind of factor built in there for that as well.
I'm just trying not to let this turn into a savings account. The government shouldn't be a savings account. They need the money to fund what they need to fund, and the expenses for the services at whatever level they want to furnish those services. But we don't need a savings account for level of services that the residents might not even want in the area.
We'll go to residents and talk to them and see. I mean, we could probably even do a mailer. This is a set a tentative rate for today so we could get the notice out to the residents. We can make any adjustment between now and, I think it's the September 15th deadline, that we can make any adjustments to the MSBU rates. So
Well,
at
I
that
would
point,
appreciate it when you send it out to the residents that you would at least say that we're looking where I don't get lit up by
certainly.
everybody
I mean,
in this
we'll send out a
neighborhood.
letter to those residents in that area.
Yeah,
That's effective.
I'd appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
So, okay, I think Commissioner Harvey was next.
Yeah, I need to clarify something. We don't need to send a letter out if we're not raising the MSU rate. So I think we need to clarify, do you want to have a meeting out there or send those residents a letter? You're going to have to do that outside of that if you're not changing the rate or going down. If you're going up, you got to send them a letter. But if you're staying the same or going down, no letter is required. So what I'd like to say is this process is going to work. And Commissioner Turner, you're spot on. What's happened in the years past is we had a fixed rate for forever when these MSBUs started. And these MSBUs started at the fact of, and I was the landowner president in Larkin Lake Estates, because we were not getting the services from the county that the people felt like they were needed. So they assessed themselves a fee, and that fee took care of grading, mowing, drainage, and reserve for emergency purposes. It was determined back then, and that has changed, that you would stay in the MSBU even if your road got paved until all the roads got paved inside the MSBU. That's not physically possible because Jackie and Andre live in one that's 92 miles. They would stay in there until their great-great-great-great-grandchildren had all the roads paved out there. So we changed that. We were able to start paving roads inside of an MSBU and zeroing them out of the tax assessment if they accessed their property from that paved road. So I would just want to say that this process is working. We do need to fix some areas. And let me say this, some of the reserves that you're hearing about, and I know I'll get beat up over this one, but you know, the truth is the truth, and doing the right thing costs sometimes. But it was just because people in some of these committees, or we had one person, and I'm not saying this about the lady, I'm saying this about other MSBUs that I know of, just didn't want to do the work. They didn't want to do the work, so they amassed a big reserve when if drainage got done or culverts got replaced that were smashed or material was brought in, it would have been done, or even if all the roads would have been done, we wouldn't be talking big reserves. But in some cases, They didn't do it, and the committees decided we don't need to do it, and they built this up. So when we change this from a fixed rate to a variable rate, we're able to take into all those considerations of the reserves, of the actual cost of doing business. And I think that was the big thing. It was before that, we had one rate. It stayed that rate for 20-some-odd years, never changed, but the contracts changed. So what did they do? Instead of doing 30 miles of West Putnam MSBU, they did 25 miles, because that's all they could afford to do. Well, that wasn't fair to the other people who lived on the property. So I think this board has come a long way with MSBUs, and Tony, I'm looking forward to you continuing the MSBU process. We have come a long way. We're moving this forward, and we're going to make it a cost of doing business, period. If it costs X amount of dollars, then that's what it costs divided by the number of people, end of story. And I think that's the most fairest way that everybody can benefit inside the MSBU system. So, Mr. Chairman, thank you for allowing me to make those points.
Would you mind answering a question
I
for
do
me?
not mind a bit, sir.
If in some of the MSBUs out in West Putnam, when they pave the road in front of their home, do you allow them to zero out of the MSBU?
They did.
How is that fair when all the people that paid for that road are still back there in the back and haven't got theirs paved yet? And so you just let the guy out that they all paid to pave their road, and you let them out so they don't contribute anymore to the people in the back who haven't had their road paved yet.
I think in taxes and fees, I hate to say nothing's really fair, but it really wasn't fair for them not to be competing for Better Place Plan dollars either when they were paying sales tax. And the deal was, we're not going to pave any roads unless we pave all the roads. Well, there's a lot of people that live inside these MSBUs that assess themselves a fee to better themselves. Got to remember, the county was doing this work, and all of a sudden the county left. Once that fee was imposed, the county left. So private contractors took it over. So yes, they got the chance to compete for the Better Place dollars, and we could pave roads inside of MSBU. There was no more
But in some MSBUs, there was no level of service before there was an MSBU because they were class 2 or 3 subdivisions that got moved forward to a class 1 type road when I'm not talking about out in your area, I'm talking about in some of these areas. Right. And so they went from no level of service to allowing to pay, to agreeing to pay for a fee to have a level of service. Sure. And so all the rest of it, I totally agree with you on as far as, that they should participate in Better Place if they rank high enough. I don't have a problem with any of that. The problem that I do have with it is if you let somebody out that that the road got paved not by Better Place, but by the rest of the people in the subdivision, then everybody paid for that road in the subdivision, and then the ones that actually got lucky enough to get the road don't have to participate in the other guys getting their road.
But that's not really what happened. What happened is the better roads were identified inside the MSBU and roads were paved under Better Place. But if you take in front of my home, for example, we went from a grading MSBU to a paving MSBU. So we went from the $23 a year to $213 for, I think it was 12 years, and you had the ability to pay in advance. So we paid for that road. And once we paid it off, it's the county's once it was paved, it was the county's responsibility. They mow it, and they take care of it. And luckily, remember when the storms came and that road did tear up, we had money in the MSBU fund from that paving MSBU that could fix it. So there is no good scenario.
So basically what you're saying is the rules for different MSBUs are kind of different by what the covenants of the MSBU are.
Correct.
Okay, that's good enough for me.
On
Mr.
this.
Adams Act was.
Oh, okay,
next.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's been patiently waiting over there, so.
Yeah,
Mr.
right on.
Adams Act.
Yes, yes, he does have his
So
light on.
this has opened a can of worms for me. So I have two of the MSBUs here, so I just want to comment. Morris Trail is going up considerably, but we had a meeting with them, and they really kind of wanted to because they had to dip into the reserves this year, basically because it went down so much that they didn't have enough to cover their services. So they were like they were like, really, we didn't care that it went down.
Well, it was
So
an
they-
error for
yeah,
going.
and it sounds like it was some sort of clerical error anyway. So I just want to let everyone know that we've talked to Morris Trail, and everyone there was in support of it going up, so, and it was a unique situation.
And
But
if they get overwhelming support for it staying at 300, I'm on board.
yeah,
I got a sneaky feeling that's not what's fixing to happen.
right, and I bring this up because it's like the tale of two cities, right? So Morris Trail only has 30-some participants total, and 20-some of them show up when we have a meeting, and it's, the whole community's there, and their relatives are there, everyone's there, right? Where my other one, Interlochen Boulevard, that's the one I get the most calls on, obviously, because there's some disastrous roads there, which we are gonna pave. So that leads to my next question is, yeah, we're gonna pave Interlochen Boulevard down for a ways, and we're gonna pave that. Both of those areas we're paving benefit everyone within an MSBU, because that's their way in and out. There is no other way in and out. I mean, there is a trail that you can get to behind. My GPS led me there once, and I don't advise anyone ever go it, but behind the sand mine, there's a trail that somehow gets back in there. I didn't get stuck, but I came darn close to it. Don't advise everyone going down there. I don't even know if it's even a road that you should be on. I think it's actually part of the sand mine thing. But my point being is, when we pave those two roads, are those people being removed from the MSBU? And in that case, I don't think they should be, because they're benefiting from the dirt to pave. Well, maybe I do think they should be. That's where I'm at a loss from listening to this conversation, because in that case, when it gets paved, really the rest of the community is who's benefiting in this case, because they have a paved access. The school buses can get to them. The emergency services can get to them better. Because we're doing this, it's already on the dirt to pave list. I guess, JR, are we removing them from there? Are they doing a covenant? What is it, are we doing when we pave Interlochen Boulevard?
Goes to the clerk of the.
We would just have to look at the restrictions. If there was something when they put the MSBU in place, I'd have to pull that one up for you.
Okay.
I don't know.
And I'll take that offline, but that is a question now that came to my head, because we've kind of had this discussion as well with Moore's Trail, because they wanted to go paving MSBU at one point. Then when we sent them the letters, only 2 people were like, yeah, we want to do it. And the reason why we come to find out is they really don't want to pave the whole loop, right? They just want to pave the part, the entrance, right, which is only, I think, 700 feet or something. In that case, they kind of all agree, and that it was nothing I was ever putting on as a dirt to pave. It was if they would do a paving MSBU, because they rank very low in the scoring comparative to other roads in District 5 that need to be done. And I voiced that to them clearly. They didn't like it, but I was honest with them. So I guess the question is, I'm almost thinking that we should consider resending, if we send out a letter, would it only go to those 4 homeowners that are on that part that they want to pave, as the rest of the MSBU benefits from it and wants it? Or would the whole MSBU share in that cost, which I think they're willing to? But how does the rules read? And I can take that offline, but this is something that comes up in my mind now, because we kind of told them, no, you really can't do that, but maybe they can.
I can't answer that.
Yeah.
So I think the rules are, if I'm getting this right, the rules in most MSBUs are different from what the rules were set up for that MSBU. So I didn't really mean to open the can of worms. I just wanted to give a little relief to some people out there. Commissioner Pickens.
All right, as far as MSBUs that have been assessed or reassessed, and they end up with not using all that money, I guess some of it has to be in reserves for whatever reasons. You can't give that money back to the citizens. It has to be used for projects within that MSBU. Is that correct?
Or drop the next year's assessment, yes.
Okay, but if you still have that money, you can still drop next year's assessment, but you still have that money to do something with, right? Okay, all right, that's what I understood, and that's why you need an active chair of that board and active members in there, so they can, poll the members and see hey, we've got this extra money, what do you want to do with it, correct? Okay, because you can't give it back to the citizens in a refund. Yeah. Okay. I just want that.
You can't give it back to the citizens.
Okay. But they can use it for,
Only drop the amount of next year's assessment, and then the expenses from next year would start taking over. If you drop the amount they're coming in, their expenses next year would start reducing the amount of money they might have in reserve.
okay, all right, okay, I understand, okay, thank you.
You can't just give it back.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
When we sat down and looked at some of these things, the questions were, how much more work do we need to do for the fiscal year that's left? How much work is anticipated with the new contracts? Because as you well know, some of these MSBU's have not been under contract. So we really don't have a year-to-date total running number right now. So there's a lot of different factors in that. And, you know, not to go out there and just willy-nilly spend money, but there's a lot of things out there that Mr. Tony over there is finding out that didn't get done. And it would benefit the community if cross culverts were replaced and culverts that were smashed and ditches that weren't built that were supposed to be in place. So there's a lot of things that we're finding out. But again, this is the best scenario in the world because now we can take the actual cost of doing business plus a reserve and either lower the MSBU fees or raise them. But before we had no option. And that was not an option because they were going broke. And if you remember, that was a very uncomfortable meeting when it went broke. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm in full agreement. I'm in full agreement with you that this is a better option than what we had previously. I'm not denying that or even trying to debate that at all. I think much better. What I'm saying is when it gets to when you go from having almost no services whatsoever to voting in a small MSBU to start getting a little grading and some mowing perhaps if you have the money, and then all of a sudden you have $43,000 that's been spent or encumbered and a $29,000 in 1 year. You went from zero behind to $29,000 ahead in 1 year. I'm just saying that might have been a little bit aggressive.
Yeah, that might have been.
So anyhow, okay. I think Commissioner Pickens, were you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Commissioner Wilkinson? Okay. At least you're honest. Commissioner Harvey?
No, Adam's that.
Adams, well, I'm going down the numbers.
You already called on me.
Okay.
So I just want to share an experience that we had, just because it may apply to your situation, Chairman, is we had an issue where we did have to go in reserves because they were underfunded in one of my MSBU's. And the issue we ended up having, because they kind of had the same situation where only one person was doing most of the conversation, we didn't have quorum for a board. So we had to actually get more people to participate to get a quorum for board. So you may want to look into that with that MSBU.
I've worked on it hard. I've contacted everybody that contacts me. I get them hold of this Sorrel and say,
without that
she
vote,
wants some help.
and we actually had to wait for a guy to show up to the meeting to get the vote to be able to release the funds to be able to allow it, just because legally that's, I guess, what has to happen. And
But not in ours. 'Cause
so
there's
just
only one
something,
that
because
does it.
we can't talk about this really offline. This maybe we can because we're not voting on it, but just something to be aware of. If there's only that one person and the committee requires 3 for a quorum, I don't think Julian can release the reserve funds to do anything. So that's at least what happened in the rules of our MSBU.
What do y'all want to do with this today? You want to move it forward as is and ask them to look at it again before September when we have to make the final thing? Is that what you're looking for today, JR?
Yes, sir, it is. And I just talked to Mr. Paprosky. We'll set up a committee meeting and put some signs in the neighborhood in San Mateo, and we'll let the citizens tell us what their expectations are.
That's all I ask, is to have some communication and not just move it forward because we can. Especially when, like I said earlier, we went from no money at all to a $29,000 reserve in a 1-year period on a place that's got 259 total units. That's pretty strong. So, thank you for that. And again, Mr. Tony, I'm sorry for earlier. I just wasn't expecting that at all. Okay, so with that being done, we're going to move forward. Do you need a motion for that, JR? do you need a motion for that? You just needed to move forward and look at it again for the ones we wanted to look at? Okay,
Yes, sir, we
good
had to be able
deal.
to legally advertise the proposed rates, but we can always adjust them down.
Yeah.
as
Okay.
needed. But we'll set up that community meeting between now and the deadline. That's September
Okay.
15th, I think it is.
Thank you. And with that, we're going to move on to appointments. Commissioner Adams Act. Commissioner Harvey.
I have none, sir.
Commissioner Pickens.
I have none.
Commissioner Wilkinson.
I have none.
And I do have one. I want to appoint Dustin Kaysen to the District 3 Fair Board position.
Good deal.
So,
Good
I
man.
don't think we have to vote on that because it was District 3, so, next, we're going to move into public comment on miscellaneous items. This portion of the agenda is designed to allow citizens an opportunity to bring matters to the attention of the board. It is not reasonable to expect that the board will engage in debate or deliberation about matters on which the board has received prior or no information as part of the agenda. Please limit to 3 minutes. Public comment cards are conveniently placed at the meeting room entrance and should be submitted, if possible, to the deputy clerk who sits on my left, up here in the front. Do you have any cards, Ashley? Okay, is there anybody present today that would like to speak under public comment? Okay, we'll close public comment and we'll move on to the Honorable Matt Reynolds, Clerk of Court.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I'd like to take just a quick moment to once again thank Ms. Ryan Mirabito for her hard work on the audit, but I'd also like to take a moment to thank all of the finance staff and Mrs. Becker as well for all of their hard work on the audit. And that's all I have. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Next is Captain Commando. Didn't know if you was a captain or a colonel today. I couldn't make up my mind. County Administrator Suggs.
No, sir, I've got no comments today, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner comments, Commissioner Adams Act,
I don't have any at this time.
Commissioner Harvey,
I have none, sir. Thank you.
Commissioner Pickens.
Wow,
I know.
talkative group. I again want to thank the clerk side staff and our staff for working with the audit. I know that's a lot of work, and that's a great audit that we just got. That's 2 in a row, I think. And so I just want to commend everybody. And then also the countywide projects. I don't know how Julianne can read that without having to take a break and getting a drink of water, but a lot of things going on in Putnam County, and they're all positive. So some of the projects move very slowly, but you know, you finally get them complete. Some of them are very, very major, some are small, but they're all there to improve the quality of life in Putnam County. So that's all I have.
Commissioner Wilkinson.
I just want to mention a lot of the backpack giveaways that we're having throughout the community. First, we have some school supplies drives throughout the community, and then following that, we'll be having some backpack giveaways. And that's a great opportunity for parents to be able to get some resources for their kids. If you go to Visit Palaca website, they have a pretty good list there of all the different backpack giveaways and places you can donate. And so I would encourage people in our community to look at that and see what's available. And also, I just wanted to mention to the board that I have been asked to be on the United Way of Northeast Florida board, which is the continuum of care for the county, for Putnam County. And what happens is basically that is the overseer of any state grants that come through for resources in Putnam County, whether it's for the homeless or for feeding people or mental health and those kind of things. And I've been on 2 meetings so far. And one of my goals as county commissioner is really to make sure that when people and organizations say that they're serving Putnam County, and this is the reason why I asked so many questions this morning when Meridian was here, is because I want to make sure if they're saying they're serving Putnam County, I want to see the results. I feel like that so over all the many years, people, organizations, nonprofits have thrown Putnam County in their name, that they're providing services to us, and that we're getting pennies on the dollar. And one of my goals is to hold them accountable and ask questions And I think this role will help me do that, and so I just wanted to mention that to you guys. I'm looking forward to serving in that capacity as a representative from Putnam County. Thank you.
Thank you. I also want to comment on just a little more on the projects list, and I did comment a little earlier, but it just can't be said enough about how many projects that Putnam County have going on at one single time. It's enormous. I don't believe anybody in the private community could do 100 projects with 2 project managers. I don't think it would be possible. I think that they should be really commended for the amount of effort that they put forward to handle that many projects. In the real world, you'd probably have 2 to 5 on a project manager. So it's tremendous about what they do. I really do hope the newspaper prints something about the St. Johns Avenue resurfacing thing, because it seems like that's the #1 issue in the community nowadays is St. Johns Avenue, and as bad as it needs to be resurfaced. And I want to finish because I also don't think it can be said enough of how proud that I am of staff for coming up with a sparkling clean audit this year. I just think that was a tremendous thing on all fronts. I really think y'all did a good job. I know that y'all do a lot of it, but I know that in order to get the budget there without the findings, they've got to manage the budget in a way that doesn't create findings. So I'm not trying to minimize it on either side, but I just think great congratulations are in order for everybody that touches the document. And with that, if there's nothing else to come before the board today, I'm going to recess the Board of County Commissioners until 5:05 when we have a public hearing on budget items. So we're hereby recessed.